called his men-at-arms together, and said, "We must sail to Bamborough and land by Spindlestone, as to quell and kill this Laidly Worm." Then they built a ship without delay, laying the keel with wood from the rowan tree, and they made masts of rowan wood also, and oars likewise, and so furnished set forth. Now the wicked queen knew by her arts they were coming, so she sent out her imps to still the winds, so that the fluttering sails of silk hung idle on the masts. But Childe Wynd was not to be bested, so he called out the oarsmen. Thus it came to pass that one morn the wicked queen, looking from the keep, saw the gallant ship in Bamborough Bay, and she sent out all her witch wives and her impets to raise a storm and sink the ship. But they came back unable to hurt it, for see you, it was built of rowan wood, over which witches have no power. Then, as a last device, the witch queen laid spells upon the Laidly Worm, saying, "O Laidly Worm, go make their topmast heel. Go, worm the sand, and creep beneath the keel." Now the Laidly Worm had no choice but to obey. So the worm leapt up, the worm leapt down, and plaited round each plank. And aye, as the ship came close to shore, she heeled as if she sank. 3 times 3 did Childe Wynd attempt to land, and 3 times 3 the Laidly Worm kept the good ship from the shore. At last Childe Wynd gave the word to put the ship about, and the witch queen, who was watching from the keep, thought he had given up. But he was not to be bested, for he only rounded the next point to Bewdley Sands, and there, jumping into the shoal water, he got safely to land, and drawing a sword of proof, rushed up to fight the awesome worm. But as he raised the sword to strike her, he heard a voice soft as the western wind. "O quit thy sword, unbend thy bow, and give me kisses 3, for though I seem a Laidly Worm, no harm I'll do to thee." And the voice seemed to him like the voice of his dear sister, May Margaret. So he stayed his hand. Then once again the Laidly Worm said, "O quit thy sword, unbend thy bow, my laidly form forget. Forgive the wrong, and kiss me thrice, for love of May Margaret." Then Childe Wynd, remembering how he had loved his sister, put his arms round the Laidly Worm, and kissed it once, and he kissed the loathly thing twice, and he kissed it yet a 3rd time, as he stood with the wet sand at his feet. Then with a hiss and a roar, the Laidly Worm sank to the sand, and in his arms was May Margaret. He wrapped her in his mantle, for she trembled in the cold sea air, and carried her to Bamborough Castle, where the wicked queen, knowing her hour was come, stood all deserted by her imps and witch wives on the stairs, twisting her hands. Then Childe Wynd, looking at her, cried, "Woe, woe to thee, thou wicked witch, and ill fate shall thine be. The doom thou dreed on May Margaret, the same doom shalt thou dree. Henceforth thou'll be a laidly toad, that in the clay doth wend, and unspell thou wilt never be, till this world hath an end." And as he spoke, the wicked queen began to shrivel, and she shriveled and shriveled to a horrid wrinkled toad that hopped down the castle steps and disappeared in a crevice. But to this day a loathsome toad is sometimes seen haunting Bamborough Keep, and that laidly toad is the wicked witch queen. But Childe Wynd and Princess May Margaret loved each other as much as ever, and lived happily ever after.